Hey, I'm Bergo and this is Psychedelic Actualization. On this channel we talk about topics like self-realization, self-actualization and working with psychedelics to live a more fulfilling life. Today we want to talk about how to prepare for a psychedelic experience. I guess we can split the psychedelic experience into three parts, and that is preparation, the actual experience and the integration. And today we want to focus on the preparation. Going into a psychedelic experience is like going into the unknown. It's like exploring parts of the Amazonian jungle no one has ever seen before. So tools and a bit of preparation can be helpful, because it's most likely going to be a very intense experience and you want to go into it with your best self. So first of all, we want to talk about your motivation. Why do you want to go into a psychedelic experience? What is your motivation? The most common motivation for psychedelic experiences, what I found, is fun, but I recommend that you are very careful with that one. I don't quite understand why people are doing it for fun. Well, I kind of understand, but I don't really resonate with that part of the experience. Just doing it for the fun. It can be fun, but just the motivation of doing it for fun, I don't quite understand it. Because right around the corner can be the screaming abyss. They can be the seriousness of the experience. Another one is therapy and healing. As we are seeing in a lot of studies that are coming out, these tools can be used for healing in the proper set and setting. And that is a great motivation. Another one can be spiritual exploration, but be aware of naive spirituality. Don't just believe everything you're experiencing right away, but be aware of the traps. We will talk about that in another video. And another motivation can be personal development, using these tools for your self-actualization and for improving your life and for gaining clarity. And another motivation can be curiosity, but also be very careful with that. Don't be motivated by anybody else but yourself. It's got to be an authentic curiosity if you want to experience these tools just for the sake of curiosity. Be very careful, but it can be a good start of getting into it, but you don't want to always have the motivation of curiosity. So that are the general categories of motivation, and you want to be clear of why you want to go into the experience. What is your motivation for going into it? And when you've gained the clarity about why you want to go into the experience and what your motivation is, then it's time to decide with what substance or what medicine you want to work with. So once you've decided what substance you want to work with, it's time to get the substance. And here it's really important that you make 100% sure that you get a really pure, high quality substance. You want to have a reliable source. So either make it yourself, or when you're getting it from someone else, test the substance on every new batch. And don't be cheap here, because you really want to have a pure, high quality substance. That fact in general reduces your fear in the experience, and you can be safe in that point of view that you're getting a pure substance and that it's not dangerous to take the substance. So basic knowledge, basic tips. Start very small when you're getting into these experiences. Know what dose is a small dose, a medium dose, a high dose or a breakthrough dose for your substance, and buy a very accurate milligram scale so that you can measure your doses. When you're starting small, you're always on the safe side and you don't roll the psychedelic dice, and then from there you can work your way up slowly to your desired breakthrough dose. The next topic I want to cover is your intention. It can be very helpful to set an intention for your journey. An intention is somewhat like a goal or a desire of what you want to get out of the experience. Somewhat like an expectation, but not a real expectation, but more like a direction point in your experience. It can work like an anchor in your experience. One possibility is that you can ask different questions about various topics, like questions about your life purpose, your relationships, the nature of reality, or your mental health, or your passions, or your life in general. Or what many people are doing is they are just coming as they are. They are setting the intention of show me what I need to know. It can be a great intention, but I recommend that you are very careful with that one, especially as a beginner, because then you don't have that direction point, that anchor. And the experiences can get very wild and very turbulent, and you don't know in what direction the experience is going to unfold. And one thing about the preparation of your intention is that I recommend that you are setting your intention a few days or a few weeks prior to your experience. And you kind of take time to reflect upon your intention and to focus on your intention the weeks before you're going into the experience. And of course, nevertheless, what kind of intention you're setting for yourself, unexpected, surprising things can and will happen in the experience, but an intention can be very helpful. So now, before we are getting into the set and setting of the experience, I want to share some things that are really nice to have. They're not really necessary, but they can help tremendously when you develop and focus on them before you're going into the experience. And these things are open-mindedness, critical thinking, self-reflection, breathing and relaxation techniques, psychological flexibility, just being in a healthy mental state in general, and education about spirituality, non-duality, psychology, or whatever the area of your intention may be in. So psychedelics can and most likely will amplify what is already present in your experience, what is already present inside of yourself, and what is already present in your external surroundings. So now we're getting to the set and the setting. So first of all, we want to cover your set. Your set is your mindset. These are all the things that you bring to the experience as an individual. These are your beliefs, your current life concerns, your emotional state, your state of mind, your past experiences and your personal history, your personality in general, and your habits. To prepare your mind for the experience, it's really important that you are ready to surrender and to let go of control. Really practice that before and really understand the point of letting go and surrendering into the experience. And just practice letting go and practice letting go of control in your life before you're going into these kinds of experiences. Also work through and let go of your anxiety and your concerns about what can or will happen in the experience. Of course, having respect for the experience is quite important, and having that kind of weird feeling in your belly, being a bit nervous, is definitely normal. But you don't want to have that extreme anxiety about what can or will happen when you're going into these experiences. So have stability of mind when you're going into these experiences. Don't be in the middle of a crisis. Don't be in a conflict with a loved one or in a stressful situation at your job when you're doing these experiences. What can help is to go into nature and just to relax in nature and just gain that clarity and that stability of mind. Also be aware of your emotional state of being when you're going into these experiences. For myself, I only go into these experiences when I'm feeling calm, when I'm feeling happy, when I'm in a positive headspace in general. Also be kind to yourself. Practice self-love and forgive yourself. Over and over again, practice self-love and forgiveness. That is also really important for these experiences, and it's really healthy in general for your emotional state of being. Another helpful thing for your mindset is be aware of your personal traits and tendencies, because they can and will be amplified. So are you worrying a lot in your general day-to-day life? Are you over-analyzing things? Are you very logical or rational? Or are you really imaginary? Are you really sensitive in general? Because these traits and these things can play a big role in the psychedelic experience. And you can really get sucked into these traits and be aware of them in general so that you can be aware of them in the psychedelic experience. So maybe when you're highly sensitive in your life in general, it can be that you're highly sensitive to psychedelics as well. And when you're highly rational or over-analyzing things in general, it can happen that you're doing the same in the psychedelic experience and that you're not able to let go and to surrender into the experience. So just be aware of that and just know your personal traits and personal tendencies. Another important point for your mindset is research. I recommend that you research a lot about these experiences. Read about different perspectives. Read about psychedelics in general, how they are working on your brain, research a lot about the substance that you want to take. Read about the dose, read about different trip reports, what can happen when you're doing it for fun, what can happen when you're doing it for healing, what can happen when you're doing it for personal development, and so on. Research everything about the substance so that you can be a little bit more prepared to go into the experience. A couple of people I know are on the side of not researching a lot about these experiences, so they don't have that kind of expectations of what can happen, and they can experience the substance naturally for them. But I recommend that you're very careful with that one. It can be a wonderful experience and it can turn out very well, but it can also turn out very, very, very badly, and it can get very dangerous when you don't know about the substance and about what can happen. It can go very, very source very quickly. So be careful. And also what I'm doing before I go into the psychedelic experience, and what I can really recommend, is that you are doing a digital detox at least a week before you're going into the experience. So watch your media intake, watch what you are taking in to your mind, what movies you're watching, what music you're hearing, what news you're reading, because all that can play a role in your psychedelic experience. So clear your mind, just be free of all that negative stuff and of all that violence or negative news, and do a digital detox before you're going into the experience so that you can fully focus on your intentions. And lastly, I want to talk about your setting. Your setting is your physical, your social, and your cultural environment that you are in. Your physical environment should match your intention. So if you want to do a spiritual exploration, you don't want to be out in the city or at a party with a lot of friends, because that is very distracting. Your physical environment, I recommend, should be very predictable and very stable in general, so that no really unexpected things can happen. I know tripping in nature can be very beautiful, but it can also be a place where a lot of unexpected and surprising things can happen. So what I do generally is to start the trip at home in a really stable and still and quiet place. And then when I'm getting into it, I know I can handle it and it's not a really challenging experience, then I can go out and enjoy the nature. I find for myself I want to be in a place where it's quiet, where I feel comfortable, where I feel safe. I want to be in a clean space, and I want to be in a space where I'm comfortable expressing everything I want to express. And you do most likely want to express yourself in these experiences. It can be that you're laughing out loud, that you're crying out loud, or that you're screaming in general, or moving around, or dancing, or whatever you want to express in your experience. And you want to be comfortable doing that. Another thing is if you want to have a trip sitter or not. That is a thing that everybody should decide for their own. It depends on your mental state of being and your intention as well. And if you're going with a trip sitter, then choose very wisely. Of course, for example, for ayahuasca, it's really recommended that you're doing it with a shaman or with someone that is experienced in that kind of field. And it should be a person, when you're doing it in general with a trip sitter, that you trust 100%, that, a person that has some kind of experience with these substances, ideally. And of course they should want the best for you. And even when you're doing it with the trip sitter, I don't recommend that you interact with the trip sitter unless it's not really absolutely necessary to do so. So when you're doing it with the trip sitter, you should be alone in your own place, and the trip sitter should be in another place, and you can ring a bell or something like that when shit's getting too heavy or too crazy or too scary for you. so that the person is there to reassure you, to ground you, and to be there for you. Of course, another thing of the set is when you're going to do it. And please, 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 really consider to take some time off for these experiences. You can go into these experiences and go to work the next day, but I don't really recommend it, because you want to have a couple of days just for yourself, at least a whole day for the experience itself, and then another day for the integration, for the reflection part, just to reflect upon what just happened in these experiences and to integrate the lessons that you've learned. So take your time, and if you want to do it at day or at night, that's on you. I don't really have a preference for doing it at day or at night. There are positive things when it's really dark outside, and there are positive aspects of the experience when it's a sunny day. So just decide for yourself when you want to do it. Another thing I recommend is that you go into the experience with an empty stomach, that you don't eat before your experience. You don't want to have an absolutely empty stomach and that you're hungry all the time and you're thinking about eating. That can distract you in the experience, but you don't want to have had a big meal just before the experience, because then your stomach is full, and yeah, when you're vomiting it can get very unpleasant, and in general, let the substance work on an empty stomach. It will be more powerful in general. I really recommend it. I do it for myself. Just eat something very light, a banana or fruit or salad before the experience, a couple of hours before, and you should be fine. Also prepare music if you want to use music in your psychedelic experience. I find for beginners it can be very helpful to get comfortable in the psychedelic space with music when you're first doing it. So you want to prepare your playlist, you want to prepare instrumental, nice, spiritual music, so that you don't have to deal with your phone when you're in the psychedelic space. That can be quite weird and difficult. Or on the other hand, it can also be quite awesome to experience the substance naturally without music. But it's on you if you want to use music or not in the psychedelic experience. Also prepare meals beforehand. Just have healthy organic meals ready to go, so that you're not cooking when you're in the psychedelic experience. Prepare water, prepare a bucket if you have to vomit during the experience, and prepare just everything else that regards your setting. Like, are your pets or your kids taken care of when you're doing something like that? Prepare an eye mask if you want to use one. Prepare pen and paper if you want to write something down. Prepare warm clothing and a blanket. And put your phone away when you're going into the experience. Do it on flight mode or something like that, so that you don't get distracted during the experience from a phone call from your boss or something like that. So that's all in general for the set and the setting. And just to wrap this video up, I recommend that you're practicing mindfulness the weeks before you go into the experience. Practice meditation, do a bit of journaling or self-reflection. Spend a lot of time in nature and just get your life in order before you go into these experiences. Clean your house, clean your mind, clean everything up. So be on a healthy diet, just get enough sleep, and do some exercise, do some movement, and just feel very good before you're going into the experience. Do your research, and when you're following all these steps that I've shared with you today, you should be fine to go into a psychedelic experience. And I wish you all the best and all the fun and all the joy and all the fulfillment that you can gain from these experiences. It's really beautiful to experience these things. It's such a mind-blowing possibility to be working with these substances, with these medicines, and you want to do it with respect, and you want to prepare yourself so that you're can go into these experiences with respect and with your best self, and that you don't abuse them, that you just handle it with respect that these sacred tools deserve. So that's it for now. If you want to hear more about self-realization, self-actualization and working with psychedelics to live a more fulfilling life, then subscribe to this channel, join our little Facebook group where we can communicate and connect on an even deeper level, and follow me on Instagram if you want to see some funny psychedelic or spiritual memes or some inspiring texts and messages and pictures. So that's it for today. Thank you very much for watching this video. Hope you enjoyed it, hope it was kind of valuable and helpful for you. And I will see you in the next one.